There we go. In less than 1 minute, we just made a beaded face frame joint. That's how easy it is to use with our new beaded face frame system. We'll show you how it all works next. Okay, here's our beaded face frame system. What it consists of is our molding cutter, which is a 7-inch diameter cutter, and 2 router bits that cut the beads, a small one and a large one. Now, when you put our molding cutter in there, first of all, when you get it, you might see 2 little holes over here on the one side. What those holes are is when this thing is perfectly balanced at the factory. So it's machined in there just like the balancing on your wheels on your car at home. So don't be alarmed if you see those 2 little holes. Now, in mounting this into a table saw, you just can't use any table saw. This is about the smallest saw you can do, and it's Delta's hybrid saw. It's a 110 saw, and all your cabinet saws will hold it. Once you have your molding cutter onto your arbor, and the arbor should be at least 1 3/8 inches long. That's how you can determine if your saw is big enough. You turn it and spin it. If it hits some of your castings on the inside, what you might have to do is take a washer or some shims and shim that out so it doesn't. Okay. Once it's in there, what next thing you're ready to do is cut your throat plate. And what I do there is I use a soft material like a plastic, order a plastic one or make your own out of a melamine or some soft material. And when you do that, set it over there, you'll have your molding cutter cranked all the way down. Then what you'll do is come over to here, clamp your throat down, and gradually crank it up. And if you don't want to plow all the way through that material, what you can do is just mark it, come on the bottom side there and drill 4 holes and just kind of jigsaw that hole out. And that hole can be fairly large because it's not exposed, your sled is sliding over the top of it. So what we have now, we have our molding cutter inserted into the table saw, the throat's cut, we're ready to go. The next thing we're ready to do now is we'll show you how to make your own sled to start making your beaded face frames. Okay, in making our sled, the material you can make your sled out of, we used a piece of HDPE plastic. You can do that, 1/2 inch thick, or you can use some melamine or just pure plywood. And we're using 1/2 inch thick material here, but if you want to use 3/4 inch material, that's no problem either. Okay, we'll use our melamine here and show you how we go about next. What we want to do is center this piece. When I cut it out, I want it 1 foot this way and 2 foot this way. It's all we need. If you want to make it bigger, go ahead. Find the center of your cutter and line it up to center here. We're going to bring our fence over here so we're lined up just perfectly in the center. Clamp it down. Our fence is square with our miter track. Our fence and our miter track should be square with our blade, so everything should be square. All right, so we're going to set our fence in here. Now, it's got to slide on 2 miter tracks. We use 2 miter tracks. The miter tracks you can purchase if you want. A lot of stores sell these in steel miter tracks. We're just using some plastic. You can even use oak if you want, or some wood. But we'll just put those miter tracks in there. If you're making your own miter tracks, get them so they're cut just perfect and also a little bit shallower than the depth of this dado here, so we can slide flush. All right. We've got our miter tracks in there. We've got our sled right where we want it. Now the next thing we're going to do is making sure this is square, is I'm going to come right into here and I'm going to drill a small hole. Right through the sled and into the plastic. What you're going to do is drill 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. If you want to put a couple in the center, go ahead, but 4 of them should suffice. Now you have all the holes are located. What we're going to do next now is I'm going to put these together. Some guys will just take and screw those. You can screw them, but I want them in there solid so they never come out. So what I'm going to do is use a small little bolt and nut, okay? And that bolt head has to be countersunk. So what we're going to do is take a Forstner bit. This is what I did. Now everybody can do this different if you want. I'm going to take a small Forstner bit and mortise a hole here. You got to countersink that down. And again, if you want to get on your table saw, off your table saw and onto a drill press, you could do that too. Okay, we're using a 3/16 inch nut. Okay, here's the hole on our sled. And again, like I said, if you want to do this on the drill press, go ahead. We come down through here. Right through here. Now, you can see I got to drill that hole just a hair deeper with my Forstner bit. If you had your drill press all set up, you'll have the right depth of all these holes. Right there. Now my nut should fit on there. I'm going to start it by hand here. Right there. Okay. Now I know that sled is going to ride freely in there. We're sitting right on the track. You do the other four just like that, and your sled is going to be riding just perfectly square with your fence and at a 90-degree with that cutter. All right. After you got all your tracks set on, the next thing I'm going to show you how to do is how we're going to put on our fence, our extruded fence. We'll do that next. Okay, here's our sled. We have the tracks attached, and everything glides smooth and square. You can see we've got this all notched out yet, but don't do that until you get your fence on first. Okay. Now, your fence comes 4 foot long, and there's a notch in the middle there. Line that up. And what you want to do is positioning this is I put it right in the center of my 12 inches. So I got 6 inches here and 6 inches here. Get a square and bring in here and draw a line clear across there. Get your fence on there perfectly square. Mark it. What you want to do then is drill some holes. Drill 4 holes, countersink them from the bottom. And then we got these little T-nuts that fit onto here. And your fence will just come into that extrusion right here. The fence, you can see how it goes right like that. Slides right on, okay? So we'll slide the fence on like that. And then we'll tighten them up square, we'll be ready to go. Now the next thing you want to do is put your zero clearance fence on the inside of this fence. That's so when your bit's coming around here, your cutter, you're not getting any chipping. And we tried using plastic, we tried using melamine, and they both chip a little bit. So what we use on there is a good piece of hardwood, like I did on my previous one. So get that on there. And what I'll do here too is I'll cut this. This is all one piece. I would make 2 pieces here. Cut this. That way your zero clearance, if it gets worn a little bit, you can cut a little bit off and keep moving it in and keep a true zero clearance here for less chipping. So that's what you'll do next here. You'll come into here, mount this on. Okay. Center, you'll go down the bottom side, tighten those nuts up, check for squareness, and you're ready to go. Then you can come into here and start cutting your material all the way through. And you can take it 2 or 3 passes there, lower the cutter, take 2 or 3 passes. And that cutter should not be any higher on the big bead. 5/16 of an inch is all you want exposed on the top of this sled, 5/16. Otherwise you're going to start hitting your metal extrusion there. And for the small bead, it's 1/4 of an inch is all. Okay, so we're going to go over some of that dimensioning with you next. Okay, we got our sled all ready to go in working order now, and we turn it on and come in here and cut, and make sure when you cut through that you're far enough through that when you turn the cutters, you're not hitting here. That's where you're going to put it. And what I like to do is I'll put a little stop there. I don't know, we have a little tool called the feather guard. It has these little notches in here. We'll slide that into here, and I'll lock that down, and that prevents me from going, I'll automatically hit that stop right there, so I don't go all the way through. And on the back side, on the other side of the fence, you can see we're going through the extrusion here, and I always screw a block of wood back there, you know, so there's no bit exposed on the back side. Okay, now when we're ready to start building our notches, cutting our notches. Okay, first thing, when you're making a face frame, if you're using the large bead like this, what you need to do is cut your material 1 5/8 inches wide. 1 5/8. And I'm talking 1 5/8. I'm not talking 1/28 of an inch under. It has to be right on the money for this joint to fit good. So 1 5/8. If you're using a small bead, this material width should be 1 1/2. All right. On the 1 5/8 now, on the large bead, what we need to do is cut this notch 5/16 of an inch deep. I'll make some practice cuts. I'll put 2 pieces together like this. I'll take my dowel caliper here, and I'll come in there and notch that out. It's right on 5/16. So I'll lock my table saw in for the whole time we're building face frames. 5/16 of an inch deep. All right. Once you got that set, you're ready to start making your notches. So we'll come into here, and we'll show you how we make our notch next. Okay, we're going to start cutting our notches, and on typical kitchen style here, your stiles are 31 inches. You're going to cut a notch at the top, come down 6 inches for your first drawer, come down 9 inches for your next drawer, and put another rail, and come down 9 1/2, put another one, and so forth, and your notch at the bottom. Now, these dimensions here can be anything you want. Maybe you want to put 4 drawers in there, I don't know, but we usually just put 3. Okay, in cutting the notch at the top and the bottom, what we're doing is cutting a 1/2 notch, really. And we'll show you how we do that. What we want to do is come into here and just cut a notch that comes like this and like that. You can see approximately how it's going to go. And what we're doing is we're lining up our stock so it's right on the edge of our cutter right here. And we've got a stop. You can see I have 2 little stops right set here in the top of my fence where I hit. Well, I got that set, and I got this bolt micro adjusted so I'm right dead on, and you can do that too. All right, so we'll just show you how to make our 1/2 notch. We'll come in here and we'll cut it, and we'll move it out and clean it out, and our notch will be cut. Okay, right there is our notch. Now, we have to make the corresponding rail come into here, but we only need 1 chamfer on the bottom side, okay? And you can see I've got this stop set right there for our chamfers, but I'm only going to cut 1. And that's how easy it is to cut and get that top rail and that bottom rail perfectly aligned right there. See, we're dead on right there, flush on the top. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come into here, we're going to cut the notch at the top of this style and the notch at the bottom. So come into here, hit my stop. Okay, we've got our notch cut at the bottom and at the top. And you can see I had to reverse this, but there's no chip out on either side if you got a good zero clearance there. All right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how we're going to lay out and cut our inside notches. All right, we've cut the notch at the bottom and the top cut now. What we're going to do is cut the notch right here, 6 inches down, And we're 1 5/8. That's what our opening is right here. We're going to line it up right where we want it. What we'll do is bring our stop in there, locate that now. So now when we come in to cut that, we'll cut it right now. Okay. What we did basically is we just cut this notch down here. Okay. You want to do the same thing with this other style over here. Cut the notch over here on this side. Next thing we're going to do is we have to cut the notch on the middle one. Well, the middle style isn't as long as these, but we still want to use this stop for accuracy so everything lines up straight. So what we're going to do is here's our other style, our middle style, and you can see our middle style is 1 5/8 and 1 5/8 inch shorter than this style, which is 3 1/2. So it's 3 1/2 inches shorter. So what we're going to do is, it's not really 3 1/2 inches shorter though, because we're going to be adding 5/16 and adding 5/16, you might say, on our tenons. And what's left after that 5/16 is in there? Right, this piece right here, right like that. And what that is, if you got a piece like this, just cut your notch like you have at the top, and right there is what we're going to do. And we cut this piece right here. All we have to do is substitute right here. Here's our shorter piece right here, right there like that, see? And what I did, I just cut a piece off. So when we cut our notch for here and here on both sides of that, we're going to use that as a shim to shim out that distance. All right. So we'll come into here, right there, and cut. Now, you can see we're going to be lined up just perfect. See? We're lined up with this one here, and we have 5/16 of an inch left over up here to go into our top rail. So you can use a stop system in here, and some guys will use flip stops. I don't like flip stops. Flip stops might be a little quicker because you can leave all these permanently set. Just come in here and flip stop them all. I like these here because the flip stops, they always come down, they always seem to wiggle, where these are solid. So, but that's how we create all your arches. And it's going to take a little bit of math to figure out where all these are positioned, but you'll get used to it, and it just presents a good looking face frame. Okay, in building this now, remember, the height of that cutter should be 5/16 of an inch from here to here. And it's also very critical to set your stop so that you cut these two chamfers so this nests just perfectly right in there. You don't want to get it too loose or too tight. Too tight, you're going to have a gap, and too loose, it's going to wobble this way. All right, once you got that set, the next thing we got to do is very critical, is setting the beaded bit. And I'm going to show you on the beaded bit how to set that. You can see the flat portion of the bit right here on top. That flat portion has to align perfectly with this edge right here. Okay? You get that bit set so that cutter is coming right here. If you have it too high or too low, it's not going to look good. So that's what we do there. After that bit is set, I'll show you next how we're going to cut that. Okay, we've got the bit set to the right height. We got our little makeup fence here on our table saw. But we'll just come into here. Flip it over. Cut the inside. And this is what makes it really look nice. There's our beaded face frame right there. Now, the next thing we're going to show you how to do is fasten this joint with our new pocket hole jig. Okay, here's our new pocket hole cutter. And what we're going to do is we need to drill 2 pocket holes into this 1 5/8 or 1 1/2 face frame. And our new jig holes are spaced pretty close together here to accommodate that. Okay, we're going to come into here, clamp up the jig, and we'll drill the 2 holes. Okay, if you got any burrs coming out the top here, get rid of them. Otherwise, you're ready to glue the joint. And what's nice about putting these beaded face frames together, there's no positioning. It locks right in there. It's only got one place to go, and that's where it's going to go. And a lot of people will use 1.5 screws here. 1.25 will work also. All you do is